everybody, and welcome to the weekly scopes from the 11th to the 17th of January. So yeah, I'm Amani, your holistic karmic astrological life coach, and I'm going to take you on this journey. Hi everybody, and welcome to this week's weekly scopes. If you've heard this before, you can skip, but this is just the intro on how I formulate these astrology weekly readings. I use astrology and my intuition to give you advice how you can practically use the knowledge of the stars and the planets and apply them to your life. So my weekly scopes are all based on GMT time and on Vedic Constellational Astrology. So now I'm just going to explain what Vedic Constellational Astrology is and how it differs from Western astrology. So the precession of the equinox is sort of like something that happens in astronomy and astrology, where the Earth's axis undergoes a slow circular motion over 26,000 years, and basically this means that this motion causes a shift in the position of the equinoxes, and also the calculation Vedic and Western astrologies use. So around 2,000 years ago, the tropical and sidereal Vedic astrology signs of astrology were aligned in the same position. So if the sun was in Scorpio in Vedic astrology, it was also in the constellation of Scorpio in Western astrology. But because of the precession of the equinoxes, this has caused a gradual westward sort of like drift of the tropical Western signs. So basically these signs and the Western signs shift 1 degree with every 72 years. So as a result of this ongoing shift, when Western astrology says the sun is in the constellation of Pisces, it's typically in the constellation of Aquarius. Still, this is because the degree, orb and the date for Western and Vedic astrology are 24 degrees, 24 days apart. So in Western astrology, the sun enters the constellation of Pisces around the 19th of February each year, but actually the sun doesn't arrive into the constellation of Pisces until the 13th to the 15th of March each year, and Vedic astrology takes this into account because it's based on the fixed star positions, and Vedic astrologers use sidereal calculations. So as a result, Vedic astrology takes into account the actual positions of the constellations in the sky at any given time, and also considers the precession of the equinox, adjusting for the shift in the position of the equinoxes over time. But in terms of Western astrology follows the tropical zodiac, which is based on the seasons rather than fixed star positions. Western astrologers also do not directly account for the precession of the equinox in their calculations as well, so this results in slightly different calculations and interpretations that are given whether we're using Western astrology or Vedic astrology. So yeah, as I said, Western astrology uses specific dates, so every year, regardless of where the sun actually is at the sky, the sun moves into Pisces around the 19th of February. So yeah, this discrepancy, this misalignment between the tropical zodiac and the actual positions of the constellations has led to a discrepancy between Vedic astrology and Western astrology. So I consider the actual where the sun and the moon are and where Mars and Venus are at any given time, and this is how I formulate these sort of like weekly scopes. So yeah, thanks for listening to this, and let's dive into this week's weekly scope. Okay, so now I'm just going to explain what parallels and contra parallels are in astrology, because I use them in my chart interpretation. So declination in astrology is the measure of how far a celestial body is, such as the sun, whether it's either north or south of the celestial equator. And the celestial equator is an imaginary line in the sky above the Earth's equator, which us astrologers use in our interpretation. So parallels happen when two planets are on the same declination. Either both planets are on the north side side, or either both planets are on the south side, and this alignment increases the influence of the involved planets. So it's similar to a conjunction aspect, as it amplifies their energy, making the effects of the planets more pronounced. Contraparallels, on the other hand, happen when two planets are on the same declination, but one is in the north and one is in the south. So this alignment creates tension, which is similar to an opposition aspect, and it can lead to conflict, challenges and inner struggles between the energies of the planets involved. So contraparallels highlight areas of friction or contrast in our lives, urging us to find balance between their opposing forces at play. When transiting parallels and contraparallels happen, they can sort of like trigger significant events, shifting consciousness and periods of intense growth and transformation. So I look at these aspects closely during chart analysis to understand how planetary energies interact and influence each other during a specific time frame, to pinpoint key periods for personal development, relationship dynamics or career shifts, and other shifts like karmic shifts and stuff like that. Because I just find using contraparallels and parallels gives me more depth in interpretation, so I use them. So contraparallels and parallels in astrology serve as markers for potential challenges or breakthroughs, guiding us towards more self-awareness, love, acceptance, understanding, forgiveness for ourselves and others, and shifts in consciousness and growth. So overall, just a shift in our mindset if we allow for it. So parallels and contraparallels just kind of like provide valuable insights into the complexities and nuances of the astrological interactions between planetary movements. So yeah, that's the end of what contraparallels and parallels are. So this is a week when expansion, growth, meets its limits, right? Its limitations, its restrictions. The main aspects that we're focusing on that's influencing us this week is Venus making a contraparallel to Jupiter, and then we've got Mars making a contraparallel to Jupiter as well, and Mercury making a parallel to Pluto. So I'm going to explain what all of this means, so in a little short while. So ultimately, the energy of this week is that we're being asked to reconcile, bring together two truths that feel like they shouldn't be able to exist in the same space at the same time. The part of you that wants more and the part that knows more isn't always better. Venus's contraparallel to Jupiter peaks on Sunday, Mars's contraparallel to Jupiter peaks on Wednesday, and Mercury's parallel to Pluto is operating beneath it all, digging, excavating, refusing to let you stay on the surface, pushing us to go deeper this week. And this is the astrology of the contradiction between desire and wisdom, between expansion, the need to growth, and restraint, the need to kind of hold back and restrict ourselves, right? Between the optimism that says yes, more, bigger, better, and the reality check that says but at what cost? You've been here before, wanting something so badly, you've convinced yourself the consequences didn't matter maybe, or holding back so tightly you forgot why you wanted it in the first place. This week is asking you to find a middle ground, and that middle ground isn't comfortable. It's not a compromise, it's a reckoning. The pressure you're feeling isn't coming from outside, it's coming from the gap between what you thought you wanted and what you actually are willing to do to get it, between the story you've been telling yourself about who you are and the person you're actually being, right? This week strips away the performance, and what's left is just truth, and truth, when you've been avoiding it, doesn't arrive gently, right? So for those of you who've been facing the truth, you'll find it easier this week. For those of you, who may have been avoiding it, it may hit you in the face like a slap, as we say in the UK. But yeah, truth can come whether we are avoiding it or welcoming it this week. So the main aspect, as I said earlier, that's controlling us is Venus's contra parallel to Jupiter. This is exact on the 12th. It entered on the 30th of November 2025, leaves us on the 20th of January, and Venus is in Capricorn and Jupiter's in Gemini. Then we have Mars's contra parallel to Jupiter, and Mars is also in Capricorn, and of course Jupiter stood in Gemini, and this is exact on the 15th of January at 9:45 a.m. and leaves us on the 26th of January. Then we've got Mercury's parallel to Pluto, and Pluto's in Capricorn, so is Mercury, so we've got a lot of Earth energy grounding us this week, so that's really good. And this is exact on the 17th of January at 7:13 a.m. It entered on the 20th of December and leaves us on the 23rd of January. So Venus's contra parallel to Jupiter is exact for the second time on the 12th of January, and contra parallels in astrology means that the energy is on the same intensity but opposite directions, so it's equal force pulling you in two different ways in simple terms, and it's all about an internal opposition, not something happening to you but something happening inside of you. And Venus in Capricorn knows what it wants, knows what it values, knows what it's willing to work for. It's strategic, careful, disciplined, about desire. Jupiter in Gemini wants options, wants possibility, wants to keep the doors open, wants to believe there's always more, always something better just around the corner. And this week, both energies are operating at full strength, right? Pulling you in opposite directions, and you're the one caught in the middle. So this aspect has been active since the 30th of November, and it went exact on the 8th of December, as I said earlier, and it's peaking now, and it won't release until the 20th of January. So whatever tension you've been feeling between wanting more and accepting what is, between staying and going, between committing and keeping your options open, you know, you may have been living this for the last 6 weeks while this energy has been affecting us, right? And you may be tired of it all. And the question this week is asking, isn't which one is right? The question is, what am I actually willing to choose, and what am I willing to let go of to have it and so I can move forward? Venus's contra parallel to Jupiter is the aspect of wanting everything without losing anything. It's the part of you that wants the relationship but also wants freedom, the commitment but also the options, the stability but also the adventure, the security but also the risk. And here's what no one wants to hear: you can't have both, not at the same time, not without splitting yourself in half, trying to hold opposing truths that won't come together, that won't reconcile, right? And the shadow of this energy is chronic dissatisfaction disguised as optimism. It's the grass is always greener energy that keeps you from ever landing anywhere because you're convinced something better is coming. It's the belief that more will finally be enough, that the next thing will be the thing that satisfies you, you know that last hit on the weed pipe, whatever, that last high, you know, that next high. And that if you just keep your options open a bit longer, you won't have to make the hard choice. But the cost of never choosing is never having. The cost of keeping all doors open is never actually walking through any of them. The gift is learning to choose with your whole heart, knowing that choosing one thing means releasing another. And that's not failure, that's how choice works. The gift is understanding that commitment isn't a cage if you're choosing freely, that focus isn't a limitation if it's in service of something you actually want, that saying yes to one path doesn't mean the other path was wrong, it just means that this is the one you're walking now. This week is asking, what do you actually want? Not what looks good, not what keeps your options open, not what lets you avoid disappointing anyone. What do you want, and are you willing to choose it fully, even if it means letting go of the fantasy that you can have it all, right? So you have to just get real about what you actually want with Venus's contra parallel Jupiter energy. Jupiter's expanding everything, so we can just want it all, right? And then we also have got Mars's contra parallel to Jupiter influencing us a lot this week. Mars is in Capricorn, Jupiter's in Gemini, you know, so we've got cardinal Earth's energy, and then we've got mutable air energy as well. So this is when, you know, our need for action represented by, you know, the Mars energy, versus our need to grow represented by Jupiter in Gemini, our need to focus, Mars in Capricorn, right, versus our need to be curious and scatter our energy and just do whatever we want when we want, right? So if Venus's contra Jupiter is about desire meeting reality, Mars contra Jupiter is about, you know, our ego in our force, you know, meeting, you know, overwhelming energy, our anxiety, right? This is the aspect of trying to do everything at once and ending up doing nothing well. It's the energy of yes, and also this, and also that, and also 12 other things. So can you see we've got a lot of energy bringing that conflicting, you know, that need to stay focused, but that need to want to try things as well, because of the mutable energy, you know, Gemini going on. And we can stretch ourselves so thin doing too much, you know, saying yes to everything, and we can result in not being present for any of it. Mars in Capricorn wants to build something real, wants to focus, wants to commit the energy to one thing and do it properly. Jupiter in Gemini says, but what if there's a better opportunity? What if you're missing something? What if you could do this and that? So this aspect entered on the 28th of December and it ends on the 26th of January. So the tension between doing the work and chasing the next shiny thing that you've been living in since the end of last year for some of you, right? And the exhaustion you're feeling isn't because you're not doing enough, it's because you're trying to do everything and everything is too much. Mars's contra to Jupiter is the aspect of the person who starts 10 projects and finishes none, who says yes to everything and shows up fully for nothing, who mistakes activity for progress, who confuses busy with productive, who uses movement to avoid the discomfort of staying still long enough to actually build something. The shadow here is using growth as an excuse not to commit, using possibility as a defense against responsibility, using optimism to avoid the reality that growth requires focus. The gift is learning to say no to good things in the service of great things. It's understanding that doing one thing deeply will take you further than doing 10 things shallowly. That commitment isn't giving up on possibility, it's choosing which possibility you're actually going to make real. The gift is recognizing that you have limits, that your energy isn't infinite, and that pretending you can do it all is just another way of not doing the thing that actually matters. So yeah, this week Mars is contra to Jupiter is asking, where are you scattered, you know, doing too much, putting all your eggs in so many baskets sort of thing, you know, just saying yes, trying to reach so many goals that you're not reaching any of them, right? And maybe you're saying yes to too many things because you're afraid of missing out. You know, FOMO can be real, and where you are using that the excuse of, oh, I'm just keeping my options open, you know, as an excuse not to commit to one thing that would actually require you to show up fully. And what would happen if you choose one thing, just one thing, and give it everything you have? The breakthrough comes when you stop trying to do it all and start doing what matters, when you stop chasing every opportunity and start building on the one you already have, right? When you let yourself be focused instead of fanatic and, you know, being scattered and doing too much, and, you know, you allow yourself to be committed and fully present instead of continuously looking for what's next, right? So this earth energy, you know, is helping us stabilize Gemini's energy this week of pulling us in different directions. So, you know, this is really, you know, good for us because it's helping us. It's good for setting plans, continuing plans, letting go of the things that are holding you back, you know, working on yourself and your goals. So now I'm going to talk more about the gift and the trap of this week's energy. So the trap of this week is believing that if you just hold out a bit longer, you won't have to choose, that if you keep all your options open, eventually one will become so obviously right that the decision will make itself. That if you stay scattered enough, busy enough, available to everything, you won't have to face the discomfort of committing to one thing and letting the others go. But that's not how it works. Keeping all your options open doesn't preserve possibility, it prevents it. Because possibility only becomes reality when you choose it, focus on it and commit to it. And commitment requires release. You can't hold everything and build anything, right? You can't be everywhere and show up anywhere. The trap is mistaking motion for progress, doing things, being all over the place like a busy bee for making progress, and mistaking availability for presence, being there, just being in the room. You think you're being present. Being present is being aware, contributing, active listening, being silent, being patient, paying your attention, not scrolling on your phone while you're in the same room as someone or with whoever, right? And you can also mistake optimism for wisdom as well. And the gift is the clarity that comes when you fully stop hedging all your bets and make the choice. When you say yes to one thing fully, knowing it means saying no to others. When you commit your energy, your focus, your time to what actually matters, instead of spreading yourself so thin you barely are there for any of it. The gift is understanding that boundaries aren't limitations. They are structures, routines, boundaries that let you actually build something real. The choice point this week is between growth, expansion, and depth, doing things in detail, going deep. Gemini energy can make us stay on the surface, and it's in, Jupiter's in Gemini, so we can just be like just gathering loads of information, loads of socializing experience, but not actually choosing anything, going deep into the research. Maybe it's the equivalent of, I've just listened to our podcast and I know everything, or I read one book. No, going deep means, listening to a few podcasts, reading a few books or research papers or whatever, gathering opposing arguments, especially in this world when we're getting more polarized and the algorithms just feed us the information that we like, right, to keep us engaged. We can go into this bubble and forget that there's a whole other world of different opinions that can be equally as valid as ours, because two things can be true at the same time, right? So it wants us to, focus, not chase every possibility. We have to choose the thing that's actually ours, that we actually want to do, rather than what the algorithms tell us to like and do, right? And it wants us to have more without commitment as well this week. A lot of energy, Jupiter energy, can be like more. Don't commit to anything, but remember, this is just a distraction. More without presence is just empty. So a question for you this week is, what if the thing you're looking for isn't out there? What if it's in here, inside of you, in what you already have, waiting for you to actually show up for it? Because a lot of the times we know what to do as human beings, but it can be so hard to get outside of our comfort zone, or we can just be caught up in the search and looking for more. But what if the next opportunity isn't better? It's just different. What if the reason nothing feels like enough is because you're not giving anything your full presence and attention? This week is asking you to choose, not forever, not perfectly, but for now. Choose one thing and give it your whole heart. Choose one path and walk it fully. Choose presence over possibility. Choose depth over breadth, the surface, curiosity. Choose what's real over what's a fantasy, right? And that's the work. That's the whole work of this week, right? So now I'm going to talk a bit more about the shadow work, starting with the psychological meaning. So the mind trap this week is the story that commitment equals loss. It's the belief saying yes to one thing means giving up on everything else, that choosing a path means closing doors, that focus is limitation instead of liberation. Freedom, right? It's the voice in your head that says, but what if you're making the wrong choice? What if there's something better? What if you commit and then regret it? So you stay in the maybe, right? You stay in the almost. You stay in the let me think about it, because thinking feels more safer than choosing. And this isn't a flaw, by the way. That's a protection mechanism. We all do it. Maybe, you know, a lot of us, somewhere in our past, maybe childhood, maybe our first big disappointment, maybe watching someone else make a choice that destroyed them. You learn that choosing wrong has consequences, which of course they do, right? And that commitment, you know, can trap you, so it's best not to commit to anything. That if you stay flexible enough, you know, open enough, available to everything, you won't have to face the pain of choosing poorly. So your nervous system learned keeping options open equals staying safe, never fully committed equals never fully losing, right? But here's what that strategy costs you, right? Choosing this strategy means you can never fully win either. You never get to experience what happens when you give something your whole heart. You never get to build anything deep because you're always ready to leave. You never let yourself be fully present because you're always scanning for the next thing. The protection that once kept you safe is now keeping you stuck. And this week astrology is activating that pattern because it's time to see it clearly. Venus and Mars contra Jupiter isn't here to make you more scattered, you know, more distracted. They're here to show you what it costs to never land, to never commit, to never follow through. The thought that if I commit I might regret it is the trap. The truth is, if you never commit, you'll definitely regret it, because the cost of never choosing is never having, and you can't build a life of maybes. We have to make a choice, right? So now I'm going to talk about, you know, your bloodline's baggage, and the ancestral pattern being activated this week is the belief that safety requires keeping your options open. And this isn't just a story, it can be your bloodline story, right? A lot of us can have this in our family history, that somewhere back in our family lineage, you know, our bloodline, someone learned that committing to one thing, one person, one path was dangerous, that putting all your eggs in one basket, as I said earlier, left you vulnerable, that the people who survived were the ones who stayed flexible, who kept a backup plan, who never loved anything so much they couldn't walk away if they had to. Maybe it was a grandparent who lost everything they built and vowed never to be that attached again. Maybe it was a parent who stayed in something too long and taught you through their misery that commitment is a trap. Maybe it was a culture that told you real power is having options, that the person with the most doors open wins, that settling is failure. Whatever the origin, the message was clear. Don't choose, don't commit, don't give yourself fully, because if you do, you will lose. And the pattern got passed down generation after generation until it landed in you. And now you're standing here wanting something deeply but terrified to reach it fully, wanting to commit but convinced that commitment is where dreams go to die, wanting to focus but sure that focus means missing out on something better, right? This week is your chance to be the one who breaks the cycle, not by forcing yourself to commit before you're ready, but by recognizing that fear of commitment is inherited, not true. And we do have a fear of commitment because, like I said, we commit to our comfort zones, you know, the things that can destroy us, our toxic thoughts and relationships. And yeah, it can be hard to break patterns and relationships. No one's saying it is easy, right? A lot of the times we know what commitment is, but we commit to the things that are actually destroying us, right? You know, and hold on to the belief that choosing one thing means losing everything else. And that's a story, right? That's not a fact. That, you know, maybe if you allowed yourself fully to do something and trust that even if it doesn't work, you won't be destroyed, that it won't work for you, that you will be destroyed, you know. And it can be daunting, right? Because at least when we don't fully commit, we can say, oh, well, you know, I didn't fully commit, I had this going and I had to look after this person or do this, so it doesn't matter, that's why I failed, right? So the work of this week is real about what you want and what it's going to take for you to get there, you know, being gentle with yourself, because this isn't about, you know, adding more regrets, right? It's about getting real and knowing that with some commitment, and yes, it's scary, you can, you know, get to where you want to go to. So yeah, choosing is risky. Yes, committing is vulnerable, but never choosing is riskier. Never committing is lonelier, and the life built on maybes is the one you'll regret the most, right? In terms of the spiritual meaning, the higher purpose this week, ultimately, the spiritual lesson this week is about understanding that growth without integration is just accumulation. We got all the information available to us on social media, podcasts, whatever, we are influxed with information, but without integrating, without choosing what information fits us, and doing the things on a day-to-day level, like, going to bed at the right time, eating the right foods, doing the exercise level for you, not what social media or anyone else tells you, but what works for you, right? Jupiter energy is about growth, yes, but growth in service of what? More for the sake of more isn't growth. It isn't evolution. It's just consumption, right? It's just like being bombarded with all the algorithms. We scroll. It's just like us viewing. It's not us using it, really. More like the information's using us, right? And our soul isn't here to collect experiences like trophies. It's here to deepen, to transform, to become more of who you actually are, not more of everything. Venus and Mars contra parallel Jupiter are teaching you the difference between growth and distraction, between possibility and avoidance, between optimism and denial, right? True growth happens when you go deeper, not wider, when you commit to one thing so fully that it transforms you, when you give yourself to a path so completely that you become it and it becomes you. That's alchemy, that's growth, that's the real work. This isn't a test, this is an invitation. The discomfort you're feeling, the tension between wanting more and being present for what isn't evidence that you're choosing wrong. It's evidence that you're finally ready to choose it all. The part of you that wants to keep all the doors open, that wants to hedge your bets, that wants to stay in the maybe, that's not your soul, that's the fear. Your soul is the part that knows. The magic is in the commitment, right? The transformation is in the focus. The depth is in the staying and getting up after each failure and fall, building on yourself, belief, understanding, love, respect, forgiveness, right? The higher purpose of this week is to learn that freedom isn't having every option, it's choosing one and being free to show up for it fully. That power isn't scattering your energy across everything, it's in focusing on what matters. That the cage isn't commitment, the cage is the perpetual state of not choosing, not landing, not letting yourself be present for anything long enough to let it change you. This week is asking you to trust something, that choosing one path doesn't mean that the other paths are wrong. It means this is the one that is your path right now, right? That committing to something doesn't mean you're giving up freedom, it means you're using your freedom to build something real. That depth isn't loss of possibility, it's the fullest expression of it, right? So now I'm going to talk about the best days this week. So this week energy is tense from the start, right? Eases slightly, lightens up midweek, then changes into something lighter by the weekend. So here's how to deal with each day. So on Sunday, the 11th of January, Venus is contra parallel to Jupiter's at its peak. Venus is made a square to Chiron as well. So this is the day the tension between wanting more and accepting what is becomes impossible to ignore. Old relationship wounds can surface, come up, right? Don't make big decisions yet, just notice what's true. On Monday the 12th of January, the Sun square to Chiron and Venus enters Capricorn. So more Capricorn energy, right? The wound is tender, but Venus changing into Capricorn brings more groundedness and awareness. This is the day to feel what hurts without making it mean something about your worth. You're healing, right? You're not broken. On Tuesday the 13th of January, Mars is square to Chiron. It means that the action that we want to take is running up against the old wound that says you're not allowed to want what you want, right? Move the energy through your body, don't act on it yet. Physical release is your friend today. So any form of exercise, whether it's weights, time Tai Chi, yoga, whatever works for you, right? Going for a walk, jumping on a rebounder. On Wednesday, the 14th of January, Mercury's opposition to Jupiter, and the Sun enters Capricorn as well. So more Capricorn energy, right? And Mars' contra power to Jupiter is exact tomorrow, but today brings, mental clarity. This is our strategy day, so the day to make the plan, to follow through in the plan. The day you can think clearly about what you actually want versus what you think you should want, right? On Thursday, the 15th of January, Venus makes a sextile to Saturn, Mars makes a contra parallel to Jupiter. It's peaking today, and Venus is trying to Uranus and Mars in Capricorn as well. Is a massive day, the tension peaks. Venus's Saturn energy gives us the structure, the grounding that we need, right? We've got a lot of grounding this week. We've got the Gemini energy making us inflexible as well. We've got some planets in Pisces, mutable, emotional energy as well. That's also a bit unsettling, but Venus's Uranus energy gives us the breakthrough that we need. And Mars in Capricorn adds to the focus. So if you're going to make a move this week, today or tomorrow are your windows, the days to do it, to move forward. On Friday, the 16th of January, Mercury makes a square to Chiron. So, our words and action can wound and hurt today. Conversations may hit that tender spot, So if you need to have a hard talk, have it, but lead with care, not cruelty. Practice active listening and speaking. And remember that everyone involved is human, and try and give grace if people trigger you as well. Of course, don't make no one, walk over you and mess with you or anything like that, but sometimes the best thing to do is to walk away. And sometimes the best way, always don't take it to heart, even if the person means it, it's their truth. And you have to try and stay centered in your own truth, by getting centered and getting real about who you are, your growth areas, because we've all got, bad points about us, but it's not about beating ourselves up and saying I'm this or that. It's about acknowledging and, doing the work to change, building that self-awareness. On Saturday, the 17th of January, Mercury's power to Pluto is exact. Venus makes a sextile to Neptune, the Sun makes a sextile to Saturn, and the Sun also makes a trine to Uranus. So this is a relief day, right? The intensity eases up, gets lighter. Mercury's Pluto energy brings psychological depth. Venus, Neptune brings softness, and the Sun, Saturn and Sun, Uranus bring both stability and innovation, new ideas, right? If you've been doing the work all week, today is when you feel it change, sift, it can ease up. This is integration day. Use this as a guide, not a rule, this energy of today and this week, it's a good day just to chill out, have some relaxation, some meditation, watch your favourite show, listen to some music, game, But ultimately, with this today's guidance and this week's guidance and this whole thing, use what I say as a guide, not a rule. If your life demands you act on a wait day, trust yourself. But if you have a choice, these wisdoms, using what I've just said, will support you and help you make the best decisions this week. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the actual work this week, going from theory to practice. How does Venus parallel Jupiter this week help you, right? So this week practice is about learning to be present with one thing fully, instead of being scattered across everything partially, half attention and all of that. The goal isn't to never want more, it's to learn how to be here for what you already have, whilst you decide whether more is what you actually need or just what you think you should want, right? So step one, pick one thing, one relationship, one project, one goal, one commitment, just one for this week. That's your focus, not forever, just for now. Step two, notice the pull towards distraction, social media, whatever. Every time your mind wanders to what about this other thing, or maybe I should also do that, just notice it, don't judge it, don't act on it. Remember, I say awareness is the key, right? Just acknowledge it. So maybe you're here, oh, maybe I should do this as well, and instead of judging it, you just say, oh, there's the pull towards more, ain't that something, and just witness it, right? Step three, bring yourself back physically, mentally, emotionally. Bring yourself back to the one thing you choose. Ask yourself, am I fully here for it? Am I present, or am I already halfway out the door? Step 4, be present for 5 minutes. That's it, 5 minutes of all presence. Not perfect presence, just full. Your attention on one thing, the whole of your attention. No phone, no planning the next thing. Just here, now, this, right? Notice what it feels like. Does it feel like a limitation, or does it feel like a relief? Does it feel like you're missing out, or does it feel like you're finally landing? The answer will tell you whether the pull towards more is wisdom or just the fear of stillness. Step 6, repeat daily. Every day this week, give something 5 minutes of full presence, right? By the end of the week, you'll know whether you need more options or whether you need to stop running from the one thing you already chose. This isn't about locking yourself in. It's about learning what it feels like to be actually somewhere instead of continuously scanning for the exit. That's the practice, right? So, to make it real this week, the integration is where insight becomes embodied. You live, you walk, you talk, you live, you talk, all of that. So to actually make this week's work land in your actual life, do a commitment inventory. Make 2 lists. List 1, everything you're currently committed to: relationships, projects, responsibilities, career, goals, education, whatever. List 2, everything you're keeping your options open about. Now ask, what would happen if you fully commit to 3 things on this one and let go of everything on this 2? Not forever, just for 3 months. What would that free up? What would that create? Write it down. You can also try the one thing practice. Every morning this week, before you do anything else, write down the one thing that matters most today. Not the 10 things, the one thing. Then before you add anything else to your day, do that thing fully, completely, then see what's left. You will be surprised of how much of your yes list was just avoiding the one thing that actually matters. You can also do a present practice this week. Set a timer for 5 minutes. Sit with one thing you've been half present for: a person, a project, a goal. No phone, no multitasking, just you and that thing. Notice the discomfort, notice the need, the desire to check out, to add something else to make it more interesting. Don't act on it, just be with the discomfort of presence. That's where the transformation lives. You can also try an honesty practice. Have one conversation this week where you're honest about what you actually are available for, not what you wish you were available for, but what you actually are available for. Not what you think you should be available for, but what you actually have the ability, the capacity, the mind, set the space for right in the time. So you may find yourself saying, I can give you this much, I can't give you more than that right now. And then, saying, is that enough? And let the answer be what it is. If there's another person involved, say, well, it's not enough. Well, that's all you can give. You can't burn out. You can also do an exit audit. So you can write down 3 things you're keeping in your life just in case, the backup plan, the safety net. And of course, I do believe we need to have some options, but sometimes we can just have so many that we never choose. That's why we're always scrolling and dating apps and all of that, right? So, write down 3 things you're keeping in your life just in case, the backup plan, the safety net, the option you're not choosing but also not releasing. Ask yourself, what would happen if you let these things go? Would you lose opportunity or would you gain clarity? Sometimes the backup plan is the thing preventing you from fully committing to the main plan, right? Pick one, do it fully. Don't try to integrate everything. So don't try to do, the exit audit and honesty practice. Just choose one, and because that's just more scattered if you try to do everything I just said. Choose one, practice, and let it teach you what presence feels like this week. So ultimately, this week's vibe check, aka the proof in the pudding, is that you will know that everything's working this week if you notice these changes. You catch yourself saying yes to something out of FOMO and pause long enough to ask, do I actually want this, or am I just afraid of missing out? You're able to fully be present for something without your mind immediately jumping to the next thing, the better thing, the thing you you may be missing. You notice the difference between feeling scattered, anxious, chaotic, nowhere, and feeling focused, calm, clear, grounded in one place. You say no to something good because it would take you away from something great, and you don't feel guilty about it, You commit to something for a set period of time, a week, a month, 3 months, and don't spend the whole time wondering if you make the right choice. You just do the thing, right? The pull toward more gets quieter, not because you've given up on growth, but because you're fully present enough to see what you already have. You can sit with one person, one project, one goal for more than 5 minutes without feeling like you're supposed to be somewhere else. The fear of commitment starts to feel less like wisdom and more like the thing that's been keeping you stuck, right? And remember that progress isn't a straight line, it's not linear. Some days you'll be more present, some days you'll be more scattered. What matters is that you're noticing the difference. That's the beginning of choice, and the choice is the beginning of everything. So, when things get heavy this week, you can try some of these grounding practices. When the Venus-Jupiter or Mars-Jupiter tension gets too much and you feel pulled in 12 different directions at once, ground yourself. This isn't avoiding the work, it's creating the stability to actually do it. And we've got lots of Capricorn energy, Earth energy this week helping us. So you can try the one thing anchor. So when you're overwhelmed by options, ask yourself, if I could only do one thing right now, what would it be? Then do that one thing, just that, nothing else. Let the rest wait. One thing is always manageable. Box breathing for scatter. When your mind is racing through all the possibilities, all the things you could do, should do, might be missing, breathe. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. Repeat until the mental chaos settles. You can clearly think when you're calm. You can't when you're scattered and all over the place, right? You can also try feet on the ground, literally shoes off, flat feet on the floor or on the earth. Feel the contact, say out loud, I'm here, just now. That's enough. Your nervous system needs to know it's okay to land. You can do the phone down, presence up. So when the pull towards more gets overwhelming, put the phone down, not for long, just for 5 minutes. No scrolling, no checking, no looking for the next thing. Just be where you are with what you have. Sometimes the most grounding thing is just not adding more input. So you could also call someone who makes you feel more grounded, not someone who increases your options. Someone who will help you get clear, someone whose presence reminds you that you don't have to do everything, be everywhere, or have it all figured out. Sometimes grounding is just remembering you're not alone in the uncertainty. If you need to ground 10 times a day this week, ground 10 times a day. This is intense work. Your nervous system is learning it's safe to focus, safe to commit, safe to land. That takes time. Be patient with yourself, right? So now I'm going to give you guidance for all 12 sun, moon and rising signs. So read for your rising sign first. That's where the energy lands in your actual chart. But if you know your sun sign and not your rising, read that instead. And if you're extra curious, read them both. Because sometimes the overlap is where the real work lives, right? So for Aries, sun, moon and rising, this week lands in your 10th house and 3rd house. That's where Gemini energy is, and the 10th house is where the Capricorn energy is. So your career, public reputation, communication and learning. And Venus and Mars contra-parallel Jupiter splitting you between the climb for ambition and the scatter, too many ideas. You want to build something significant, but you keep getting distracted by the next idea, the next opportunity, the next shiny thing. The work this week is choosing one mountain and climbing it instead of standing at the base of 12 mountains wondering which one to attempt. Your mind is brilliant, Aries, but brilliance without focus is just noise. So pick one thing, build it, the rest can wait, right? So for Taurus, it's hitting your 9th house and 2nd house. So your 9th house of philosophy, travel, higher learning, and the 2nd house, the house of resource and values. So you're being asked, what do you believe about abundance? You want security, but you also also want adventure. You want to build something stable, but you're afraid commitment means giving up freedom. The tension between the part that wants to grow and the part that wants to protect what you have, can be really high this week. And this week you're asked to examine whether your caution is wisdom or just fear dressed up as practicality. Sometimes the most stable thing you can do is take the risk, not recklessly, but with your whole heart, right? Gemini, your 8th house of transformation, shared resources and intimacy and identity, and the first house are being activated this week. So with Jupiter in your first house, it's pulling you towards more options, more possibilities, more ways to be. And Venus and Mars in your 8th house asks you to go deep instead of wide. The week for you, Gemini, this week is stopping the performance of having it all together and naturally letting yourself need something, need someone. You're brilliant at staying light, at keeping things moving, but depth requires stillness, and stillness terrifies you because it means you might have to feel something you've been avoiding. So let yourself land, Gemini, this week, even if it's just for this week, and see what's there, right? Cancer, your 7th house of partnerships and your 12th house of unconscious are lit up this week. So with Venus and Mars in your 7th house, they want commitment, clarity, structure in relationship, and Jupiter in your 12th house is whispering doubt, fears, what ifs from the shadows, right? The tension between showing up fully in partnership and the part of you that's terrified of being trapped, controlled, or losing yourself. This week asks you, are you holding back because the relationship isn't right, or because vulnerability never feels safe? The work isn't to force commitment, it's to get honest about whether you're avoiding it because of them, the other person, or because of you. Sometimes the cage is the one you built, right? So Leo this week activates your 6th house, Capricorn, right, energy, and the 11th house where Gemini's hitting you this week. So, your daily work life, your health routines and community and friendships are being affected. And Venus and Mars in your 6th house wants you to focus on your discipline and your commitment to your daily work. And Jupiter in the 11th house is pulling you towards more socializing, social connection, networking, making you think this week, all the people and the possibilities, and the scatter this week is between doing the work and being seen doing the work, right? Between building something real and performing success for audience. You're being asked to choose. Do you want to be famous or do you want to be skilled? Do you want, the likes and the applause, or do you want mastery? You can have both eventually, but right now you need to pick one. The work is private, the recognition comes later, right? So Virgo, this week hits your 5th house of Capricorn and 10th house of Gemini. Creativity, pleasure, self-expression, career and public life. Venus and Mars in your 5th house is asking you to create, to play, to express, and Jupiter in the 10th house is demanding you be professional, responsible and ambitious. The tension is between the part that wants to make something beautiful and the part that needs it to be useful, marketable and successful. This week asks you, can you create something just because it brings you joy without needing it to become your career? Can you play without monetizing it? Your worth isn't in your productivity, Virgo. Sometimes the most important thing you can make is something that serves no purpose except to remind you you're alive and you're you, right? Libra this week lands in your 4th house and your 9th house, so home, family, roots and philosophy and growth are being activated. And Venus and Mars in your 4th house wants you grounded, rooted, and for you to build a foundation, to set that plan, to set daily routines that can help you reach your goal, right? And Jupiter in the 9th house wants you to explore, to expand, to seek more, right? The work this week is about whether you're running towards something or away from something. Are you seeking growth because your foundation, your daily life isn't solid, or because you are genuinely called to grow? There's a difference between healthy growth and using adventure to avoid dealing with what's at home. This week asks you to look after, tend to your roots, your daily routines, your family family, whatever, before you try to grow new branches. The tree that doesn't have deep roots falls over when the wind comes, right? So it's about making sure you got the right plans and strategies, right? Scorpio, this week activates your 3rd house and 8th house, so communication, learning, siblings, transformation and intimacy. And Venus and Mars in your 3rd house wants, clear, direct, focused communication, and Jupiter in your 8th house is pulling you towards being more deep, being open to more intensity and transformation. And the tension is between saying what needs to be said, the 3rd house, right, and the part that wants to go deeper than words can reach, which is or 8th house energy, your domain energy, right? And this week asks you, can you speak your truth without weaponizing it? Can you be direct without being brutal? Because your home house, the 8th house being activated, so you just have to try and be gentle, respect other people's boundaries, and be gentle with yourself. And the power for you, Scorpio, is your ability to see beneath the surface, but that power becomes violence when you use it to control instead of connect, and realizing this, right? Speak clearly, speak honestly, but speak with care and, awareness as well of other people's boundaries and all of that. Sagittarius, this week hits your 2nd house. That's where Capricorn energy is landing. And the 7th house, this is where Jupiter in Gemini is landing, right? So your resources, your values, your self-worth and partnerships. So Venus and Mars in your 2nd house want you to value yourself, to know your worth, to build something stable. Jupiter in your 7th house wants connection, partnership and relationship. The work this week is recognizing that you can't build a healthy partnership if you don't know what you're worth. You can't say yourself if you don't have a self to say, if you're always doing what others want you to do and all of that. The scatter is between giving yourself away, to keep the connection, Sagittarius, and protecting yourself so much that you never let anyone in, right? So this week asks, what would it look like to be in a relationship whilst being whole? You don't need someone to complete you. You need someone who meets you as an equal. Capricorn, this week lands directly in your 1st house and 6th house. So your identity, your body, your presence and your daily work and health are being affected. Venus and Mars in your 1st house are asking you, who are you becoming? Jupiter in your 6th house is pulling you towards doing more, being more productive and adding more to the plate. The tension is between being and doing, between presence and performance. You're so used to proving your worth through what you produce that you've forgotten you're allowed to exist. This week asks, what would happen if you stopped for one day? What if you trusted that your value isn't in your output? The work isn't to do more. The work is to be more of who you actually are, not who you think you need to be acceptable, right? But to be who you are, right? Aquarius, this week activates your 12th house, Capricorn, and 5th house, Gemini. The unconscious, spirituality, the hidden realms, the hidden places of consciousness and creativity and pleasure. Venus and Mars in your 12th house are working beneath awareness, in dreams, in the shadows, right? Jupiter in your 5th house wants you creating, playing and expressing. The work this week is about whether you're using creativity as escape or as integration. Are you making art to avoid feeling something or to express what you're feeling? There's a difference between those two, right? Whether you're doing it to feel or whether you're doing it to avoid being in touch with your feelings, right? This week asks you to bring what's hidden into the light, not all at once, not performatively, but truthfully. What's in the shadow wants to be seen. Let yourself create from that place. That's where the real work lives. So Pisces, this week hits your 11th house, that's where Capricorn is, and the 4th house, that's where the Gemini energy is for you this week. So community, friendships, collective vision, and home and family. So Venus and Mars in your 11th house wants you to be connected, to contribute, to be part of something bigger. Jupiter in your 4th house is pulling you inward towards home, towards rest, towards the private self. The tension is between showing up for the collective and looking after your own needs, between being there for everyone and being there for yourself. This week asks, what happens if you prioritize your own foundation before you try to hold space for others, right? You can't pour from an empty cup, Pisces, and you have been emptied for a while. It's okay to go home. It's okay to rest. It's okay to let others hold themselves whilst you look after, yourself. That's not selfish, that's survival, right? So in terms of this week's shadow prompt, and the uncomfortable questions to ask yourself for all of you guys is, right, that ultimately this question this week isn't comfortable, but it's necessary. Sit with it, don't rush to answer it, let it work on you. So ask yourself, what am I actually afraid will happen if I fully commit to one thing? And is that fear about the thing itself, or is it about what it would mean about me if I choose it and it didn't work out? Let that sit. Don't perform an answer. Don't write what sounds wise. Let it land in your body and see what comes up. The resistance you feel to the question, that's the edge. That's where the work lives, right? So, if you want some journaling prompts, then here they are for you, right? So you can also say, ask yourself and journal about the thing I keep saying I'm keeping my options open about is actually, and you finish these sentences, right? The next one is, if I'm honest, I'm staying scattered because committing would mean, and then write what that would mean. The one thing I would choose if I trusted that choosing it didn't mean giving up everything else is, and what I'm most afraid of losing if I focus on one thing is, and write the thing that you're afraid, the number one thing, the biggest thing you're afraid of losing. And then ask yourself, is that thing real or is it a fantasy? Some of you may be afraid of losing a relationship that's not good for you overall, right? Then you can write, if I gave myself permission to land somewhere, to be present for one thing fully, it would feel like, and then complete that sentence, right, without editing. Let it be messy when you do these journaling prompts, right? Let it be uncomfortable. That discomfort is information. That's where your truth lives, right? So all in all, the final T of this week isn't about having less. It's about being present for what you have, right? Venus and Mars contra-parallel Jupiter are showing you where you've been using keeping your options open as an excuse to not commit, where you've been using more as a defense against going deeper, where you've been scattered because focus feels too vulnerable, doing too much, just keeping busy so you don't have to stop, right? So you don't have to focus on what's real. And remember that the pull towards more isn't wrong. Sometimes you need more. Sometimes growth is exactly what's called for. But this week is asking you to examine whether the more you're chasing is wisdom or just avoidance, whether the options you're keeping open are serving you or just preventing you from landing anywhere long enough to build something real. And here's the other T. Commitment isn't a cage if you're choosing it freely. Focus isn't limitation if it's in service of what matters. Saying yes to one thing doesn't mean the others were wrong. It means this is the one that's yours right now. This is the thing that you're meant to be doing right now, right? And you're allowed to give it your whole heart without keeping one foot out the door just in case. This work is hard. This work requires you to face the fear that if you commit and it doesn't work out, you will have wasted your time, your energy, your life. But here's the truth. The only waste is never committing at all. The only real loss is spending your whole life in the maybe. The only tragedy is keeping all doors open and never actually walking through any of them. So this week, choose something, not forever, not perfectly, but for now. Choose one thing and show up for it fully. And yeah, earlier I said you can choose 3 things, up to 3 things, or just choose as much things as you can handle. But I mean, like, choosing just one thing to concentrate fully on this week, right? So choose one thing and show up for it fully. See what happens when you stop, hedging your bets, putting all your eggs in lots of different baskets, so at least one of them will come lucky, come good, right? And, you know, see what committing to one thing, and you give something your whole presence, see what happens when you do that, right? And you might be surprised to find that the whole thing you've been looking for everywhere else was right here all along, waiting for you to actually be present for it. Take care of yourself this week. Ground when you need to. Be gentle with the part that's afraid to commit, and trust, really trust, that you're not giving up freedom by focusing. You're using freedom to build something real. That's not lost, that's power. Okay? Remember, that's not lost, that's power. Okay, so now I'm just going to give you some mantras this week for all of the 12 signs, right? So Aries, I focus my fire on what matters. Brilliance without scatter, you know, doing too much. Taurus, I trust enough to risk. Security and growth are not opposites. Gemini, I land in one place long enough to see what's actually here. Cancer, I show up fully even when vulnerability feels unsafe. I am held. Leo, I create for joy before I create for applause and lights. My worth is within me. Virgo, your mantra is I am valuable beyond my productivity. Rest is not weakness. Libra, your mantra is I tend to my roots before I grow new branches. Remember, foundation first, you know, your basic routine first, Libra. Scorpio, I speak truth with care. Power is not the same as force. Sagittarius, I sow up whole, not looking for completion. I am enough alone and together. Capricorn, I exist beyond what I produce. Being is enough. Aquarius, I create from truth, not from escape. Integration, not avoidance, right? Pisces, I look to my foundations before I hold others, you know. Self-care is not selfish, so you know it's very important you nurture yourself first, Pisces, right? Okay guys, so now I'm just going to end with the astrological flow, which is new, but yeah. So this week you've been standing at every door, convinced that staying available to all of them is the same thing as having options. But here's what you're learning. The door you never walk through is just a wall you're pretending is a possibility. This week, choose one. Walk through. See what's there. Okay? And remember, you know, that although, you know, truth may come to some of you, as I said, this week, you know, with the Pluto energy, the Jupiter expanding it all, the Venus relationships, 7th house, right, and also 2nd house, our values as well, all being influenced, you know, the Pluto, 8th house secrets, shared resources and all of that. So, you know, truth can come out whether you try to avoid it this week. The most important part of this week is just being gentle with yourself, you know, realizing that you are enough as you are, and yeah, that doesn't stop you from wanting more and doing more, you know, but you just have to just realize that, you know, if you really want to get to where you want to get to, you have to focus on whatever it is that needs your focus, right? So, you know, it's about being strategic but also careful and disciplined as well, especially when it comes to your desire this week, and just allow yourself to be, and don't forget to do the grounding exercises, the journaling prompts and shadow prompts that can help you stay focused. So yeah, I'm Amani, your holistic astrological life coach, and this has been the weekly scopes from the 11th to the 17th of January. Take care. I hope you're enjoying 2026 so far, and see you next week, guys.